3, 2, 1, and go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special FPV podcast. This week, actually just today, we're going to be talking about the MultiGP Nationals. And we have on here Mack, aka Rombot, one of the people that made it in. And he's fast, and we know that. He's been on this show before. So, Rombot, please very quickly introduce yourself.
Hey, so yeah, I'm Eye Mack flying out of Washington, D.C. Concrete Quads is our DMV chapter. We also fly with Maryland Quad Racers and Northern Virginia Radio Flyers as well.
Definitely, and he is one of the fastest people in that area. And this group is really good. We're talking about 10-plus people making it into the MultiGP Nationals. So you can tell that they are a powerhouse division, and it's really great to have you here talking to you about MultiGP Nationals because, there's good things that came out of it, and there's some things that, warrant discussion. So that's what we're here to do. So let's go ahead and go through the thought process. So when you got there, what was your first thoughts?
This isn't my first rodeo at one of the big events. And so, I always expect I've always said I've yet to see any multi-GP or any drone racing large event ever to always be exactly on time and on schedule. That was something that I was just already anticipating right off the bat. And so when I arrived, I got in there for the first time on the track like early Wednesday, and I saw the state, kind of got the feel, found out that a lot of the guys had delays in flights, couldn't get out. Chris, he wasn't even able to make it out, I think, until Thursday when he finally arrived, just because due to the hurricane and other things. So things were kind of delayed. And so I couldn't get a rental car. Literally every rental car in all of Reno was completely sold out. And so I got to the track through an Uber. And once I saw the track wasn't built and they needed help, I was like, well, I have no way to get home. So what do you need me to do? So I'm sitting out there with some of these big names. I was actually walking around with Jet and stuff like that. We were building up the track and helping out. Scully was there. He was kind of giving instructions. So all the guys and all of the crew were out there, were working their butts off. So there's really no complaining that I can do. It wasn't like anyone was sitting on their hands, not trying to make the event go as smoothly as possible. It's just unforeseen circumstances preventing it from being the best that it could be. But when you look at the plan and you look at how it was organized, it looked like, it was really good. It was really solid. As soon as we got the track set up, I swear it was within 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. As soon as the track got set up, we just looked over the horizon and you could just see over the mountaintops this storm rolling in, and the wind just started picking up. And I kid you not, it was within about 10 minutes it hit us, and now we're bringing all of the gates and stuff back down. The netting on the ceiling is collapsing and caving in. Man. I took a picture and posted it on Facebook for some of the guys. They're just oh my goodness, what the hell, man? And I'm like, hey man, you can't blame anybody for the storm, man. The weather's gonna be the weather. And so we basically ended up pulling everything down and having all the cranes lower in all of the nets to kind of prevent the wind from doing any more havoc. And, the crew came out really early the next morning, started building, started working on a lot of cool guys. In fact, they even gave me a ride home, really nice people. Started working on it, and we ended up getting it back up and running. We were definitely delayed. I say with the storm and the weather and people getting delayed, it probably put us about a day and a half. I would say a day and a half behind schedule from where we wanted to be, or maybe a little less. So, a lot of things ended up getting crammed in kind of tightly when it came to practice and exposure on the actual track. But I can't blame anybody. I can't blame the MultiGP guys or anything like that. I don't expect them to come out 3 weeks in advance and, dust off the course and make sure it's all just perfect and sitting there when we arrive. That's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, because one of the things that I want to talk about is these guys are having big races from place to place. You know what I mean? This is not a production company. You know what I mean? It's going to get there. I believe we're going to get there. DRL is a production company, so wherever they go, they can produce right then and there. But the MultiGP is the ground floor. It's meant to be the basis, the kid against kid, the neighbor down the street against the neighbor, kind of stuff. Not so, when they make a big race, they got to get guys together, and then we got to get these guys to work together, right? And everybody got to know what's going on. So sometimes it takes time to get shifted, moving, especially Look, the last big race was up in Indiana. I mean,
Muncie.
up in Muncie. Yeah, the last big race was up in Muncie. So then now you move everything all the way across the country down to Reno. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're not just moving, people. You're moving product. You know what I mean? Everything got to be reset up. Everything got to be rebuilt. So I think people need to understand that, because I watched all the comments. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here watching Facebook, Instagram, and all of that stuff, and I'm like, man, well, why are they already tearing it down? I mean, there's guys out there that are speaking ill about something that's normal. It's a normal situation where you get to a race and things are not cohesive just yet.
I think that's just like some of the internet toxicity, where it's like really easy to kind of say and shut something down, but it's like, you're not out there being a part of it. If you're not helping make it better, then what do you really have to say? You can sit here and talk all of the crap that you want to talk, but it's like, how are you helping the organization? How are you making the events better? Like, what energy are you putting into it? Because everyone that I'm seeing who's trying is giving their best and really trying.
Yeah, I've never seen any lazy people at building a track. I mean, you always see guys running. You don't see guys.
It's like, did you help tear down afterwards, or did you just go hop in your car and drive off and just go home as soon as you were done flying?
But me and Wyatt know all about that tear down stuff.
On Facebook and instantly start insulting everybody. Yeah. But it's just one of those things. A lot of the big complaints were some of the guys were saying oh, why did we do this? In conjunction with the air races and stuff like that. And I just think guys don't understand. It's like, if this sport is going to continue to grow, then it needs fans. People need to know about it. It needs a base. As you get fans, as you get more pilots, as you get more followers. And so, it's kind of like the situation I was trying to explain to somebody out there. I was like, dude, it's like we kind of have to be here because we want the exposure. You want people to know about it. We're the band that goes on and plays before who people really paid to come and see and all that stuff. You got to be that guy before you hit it big and before you have enough supporters to where you can fill the stadium yourself. Right. But you got to start somewhere, and that's kind of where we're at right now. It's like, it's still a very kind of grassroots organization, and it doesn't have, like you said, all the money. And a lot of the big name or the very fast pilots and stuff, they went to the other events and stuff where apparently, from what I heard, they were, paid to kind of come out and fly at the the DR1 and other things and stuff like that too. So a lot of those guys didn't even end up showing up for the main races because, they went where, the money is, which I can't blame them for, pilots, people trying to make their living how they can. But this is multi-GP. It's basically, like you said, it's supposed to be for everybody. It's the best pilot who gets there. There's no popularity. There's no this. It's like either if you can compete and you can make it here, then you're here and you're flying with the best of the best. No strings attached. And that's actually why I really like, why I really, really like the multi-GP organization.
It's mano y mano once you hit that track.
Definitely. And you brought up, a bunch of great points. MultiGP in general has been really lucky in terms of weather, and this just happens to be one of the ones where the weather didn't play their way, and it's a part of life, and to tell you the truth, it still ran really well considering the fact of the weather that they were challenged with, and it's something that everybody needs to recognize. We're an outdoor sport. When you talk about DR1, DRL, possibly DR1, they choose mostly indoor venues where it doesn't really affect them as much, but you have to pay a whole lot more money when you do an indoor event. So definitely kudos to anybody who showed up and just started busting ass and, getting the track set up, because we all know it takes a lot of work. And then it's kind of discouraging to have a storm roll right in, the Joe Scully storm, as I say it. It's the Joe Scully storm that hurricaned everything down, and then you build it back up and you keep pushing. And that's
Hurricane Scully just went through there.
Yeah. There we go. You can quote us on that. Hurricane Scully came through. But hey, you know what? Kudos to everybody. It seemed like it was a great event from the outside after the initial, hey, what's going on? Which, the internet's the internet. They always want to be little kids and blow up. So that's just how it is. We all get used to it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next discussion, which is very hotly debated, which you told us, which is the track design. It's a much more confined area because we're in an area where there's going to be a lot more spectators. There's an even larger event going on at the same time. What was the discussion around the track? What did you hear on the ground floor?
So this one was definitely one of their more like tight technical tracks. Like for more than one reason, you know, you're kind of netted in, which for our guys didn't really matter that much because we're normally flying underground. But what I mean about that is what made this course for me in particular like really really technical is like the line. Like normally when we design like most tracks, or even like when you look at like the regional qualifier track, like kind of the fastest like line is kind of like center gate.
Right.
Whereas this track here, like the fastest lines that you were taking were like, you'd kind of have to come in like top right corner, exit out bottom left corner, enter.
Right.
So it was just like, and for me, that's something that I kind of learned is I really need, like, a lot of the guys were like, I'm a visual flyer, and I kind of react like more visually, and I'm usually try to square myself up with the middle. And what I was actually finding for me is that was like the wrong place to be. You wanted to be like super close to edges, and you really had to just super focus on that line and almost just ignore the rest of the track, because a lot of the guys, they were making almost like blind turns, but you could tell that they were following and they were just like locked into that line that they found. And so they wouldn't even see, like, you wouldn't even see the gates coming up. By the time you saw the gate, you were already passing through the thing for like some of these guys. And that's how you could just tell the dudes that were really locked in and just like flying those like solid lines, as opposed to like maybe guys like myself who takes a little bit longer to learn the line, because I'm more of a visual kind of flying. And what I found is I was having to make a lot of jackknife turns and corrections and stuff, because I would be coming through center gate, but center gate wasn't where you wanted to be at in that speed. Right. You should have came in actually to top right corner.
Overshoot.
I would have had the room to maneuver, but it just like, that was kind of, brings into the next point with that track, is it was definitely a really high difficulty. And the fact that the weather was the weather and set us back a good, day, maybe a day and a half, they really condensed the practice time. Though they kept it fair, everyone had limited practice time. So everyone got the same equal amount of barely any practice time at all. But it was kind of rough, because it was, for me, it was a track where I feel like, if I could have, flew on it for like a whole day as they originally had planned in my schedule, I would have had a much different result. But then again, a lot of guys would as well. So They kept it even. They did keep it fair. They gave us about 4 packs for the Series 60. You got 4 practice packs. And then they closed it out for the day, and we showed up the next morning at 8 a.m. and they're just like, do your best. That's 2 out of 3. And it was like, man, it was a lot of, it was
a little jittery going on, a little nervousness. But, speaking of the track, I watched the first day, and it was basically watching pinball as people were bouncing off of everything, including poles. And then, people got smoother, right? Eventually, it got to what you were saying, Rombot. And watching some of the smooth guys, it really reminded me a lot of what DRL does with their racing, because a lot of their tracks is designed to where hitting center gate doesn't give you the fastest line, like you were saying. So it was like you really had to pay attention to what you're doing in terms of flow, right? Which is basically a racing line. And it's difficult, especially when you only have 4 packs, because 2 of those packs is just you trying to get used to the track. And then the other 2 tracks, you hopefully actually learn something before you get knocked out of the air, which, as I heard, you got knocked out a few times. So what was going on with that?
Yeah. That was for me too, man. Like I said, it was a really tight track, and since the lines that you were following were so close to the gates, like there wasn't really good passing lanes, or it was really difficult to pass. And so it was really incredibly like risky. And so if you're kind of taking off and flying, a guy's trying to pass you, a lot of times he ends up hitting you, or you guys end up colliding. So there was a lot of like mid airs and other things, even though they did actually expand out the width and heights of the gates to make them bigger. Like that line was definitely that line. And that's where when you set up the line where it follows the center gate, you kind of create a little bit more room for kind of like passing lanes and other things where you can actually maneuver around the guy and kind of have that like battle. But with this gate, it's like if you weren't in that tight corner and you're trying to pass the guy wide, you're having the jackknife so hard that you're going to lose all of your speed and momentum. Like, so the pass isn't really worth it. So there wasn't like a lot of good passing places that like I found, and the guys that I was with and like talking to, like it was really tight. Like there's pretty much like, for the most part, the guy who took off in the whole shot and was following that line would either take first, or he would like crash out, or someone would end up colliding with him, was pretty much that he would lose, or he would have to make his own mistake, where then the next guy, in line could basically kind of jump in front of him, and then he'd kind of jump back on the line there too.
Yeah, one of the things that I notice is that we talk about car racing too. You know, like car racing. There's different types of racing. There's Le Mans. There's where you're cutting in front of each other, cutting each other off, and slowing down. The pack leads into a corner, and you got to milk out until you get your little line up, and then you hit the corner and try to come away. And pull out into the lead or change positions. And I think that's what that track was meant to do, was to cause to try to quickly pull the best of the best up above, right? If things are difficult in the beginning, it shows that practice pays off. We all know, if you race drones or if you're in this business, you know that to do this correctly, you have to practice. You're not going to wake up tomorrow morning and jump on the plane and head out to a big race and call it and sit there with your feet up for the whole day. So, you got to get out there and you got to shake them thumbs, them fingers, pinch them fingers, them sticks real good. So, with the changes in the type of racing, and I think this race was more of like a Laguna Seca kind of race, where you have these smooth snap sweeping turns, and then you guys did a lot of altitude changes too, which is that also added toward the racing too, because I noticed a lot of people was having that problem changing that altitude, and ding,
down the corkscrews, like you had the wide like sweeping like rights, and then slowly graduating, getting even bigger and then smaller, and other things and stuff. And it was really interesting because, like I said, when I was like a visual guy, the smoother pilots, what you would see them doing is like, this tunnel was like a straightaway, but like the really good guys, they were never straight in that tunnel because it was constantly a turn. Even though you're looking at straight, they're pretty much banked right like the whole entire time as they're flying the whole track, so they can just kind of like make those angles. And that's what I mean. Like they're really solidly locked into that line. Like they're not really looking at the track. They're just on that rail, which is like that really fast line, and they're just following it, and they just got it down. Right. And yeah, like I do agree. It was definitely a really technical track. And it like very quickly kind of sorted out the people who could just kind of go and do what they needed to do, as opposed to the ones that kind of like, oh, let me kind of figure this out a little bit. It's kind of like,
you're one of them speed pilots, I've watched you run, and I've seen some of your runs from other races you guys have been in, and the whole team, and you're one of the fastest I've seen. So, and you can hold your own. And
I'm just a little late. I just wish I was a little faster. I just wish I was a little faster to warm up. I don't know. Yeah, I got to reach out to the community. I got to talk to some people. I got to figure out how I can just show up cold. Because I got guys. There's guys that I race with right now. Bill is one of these guys. He was having a rough patch out there. He was having all of his equipment break down, just all kinds of things completely took him out of his game. But he's one of these guys who'll come out and his first pack of the day, completely cold, will be the fastest lap of like the whole entire day.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, he's like, what? How'd you do that? He's like, dude, I could just roll out of bed and crush it. Zach Thayer is the one I think about. But, I think when I was watching that, and like overall track design, like the ones at I.O. and the regional finals I thought was a funner track to actually watch. This one with the corkscrews, while it's very technical, and if you actually enjoy watching the commentary on racing lines, you might enjoy it. I just didn't think it was visually very watchable, because like the corkscrew thing was just, I don't know, after a while it's like, dude, if I watch one more corkscrew, I think I'm just gonna go switch it off on a different channel. What about you, Evan? Did you like the track design? I didn't particularly like the center 3 gates corkscrew thing.
Oh, that yeah, I thought that was a little excessive. That's all. I mean, I just thought, what the? I was like, okay, I'm getting this gate. Oh yeah, okay. I can see that. I can see that. What the hell did you put that there for? Yeah. Okay. I mean, as long as everybody's running it, I mean, it's difficult. It was one of those things like, where the hell did you come up with that idea? But hey, it helped within the crowd. right? It helps
We,
it to move.
we had a Fat Shark booth. All the guys, actually really cool guys. In fact, I had a busted up power module in my headset. I was too afraid to pull my headset apart. And I ended up talking to the Fat Shark team, kind of told them I was a little scared. I hadn't messed with it much. Swapped it out for me in like 5 minutes. They actually had a booth in the middle. Like when I wasn't flying, I was actually talking. Well, helping people kind of set up the headsets and stuff, kind of flick through the channels, watch the flying. So when you talk about all the corkscrews and all that stuff, it was funny watching these little kids, like adults, like old people, like you just see them all like losing their balance, just like almost falling over. I was like, hey, hold on to your husband there, because I don't want to see him, drop the
seizures.
Really lose the orientation. It was a really quick track, and there was a lot of turning, and so I could kind of see that for the non like racer person, it was kind of maybe hard to kind of follow that line, because even for the racers, I mean, even some of the experienced guys, I remember we walked around, we did the first track walkthrough, and Ferrati, I'm just like, did you get that one? He's just like, nope.
Dude, I watched some of your guys fly.
Yeah, it's just like, this is going to take me a minute to try to figure out this track. And then the one negative critique that I would like give him is I think the guy that designed the track, he didn't end up coming out, and so the original practice heats they were flying the wrong course, just slightly. There was like a slight deviation for about 4 gates for the original people that took off to like fly. And so that was the first course that I was trying to memorize, which then I got told, hey, actually, you're going to be flying on the real course, so forget this kind of quarter section of the track, because you're going to be flying it slightly different. And so that was kind of one of those things where I was like, that was kind of one of those things that kind of messed me up. But it wasn't like a game changer. I mean, you could definitely have adjusted and adapted like to it, but it was just one of those things.
It's hard, man. The first day watching, because so many people were getting wrong, I couldn't figure out what the race line was, because it's like, well, that guy went that way, and he seemed like he was right, and then the other guy went it the other way, and he seemed like he did it right, and I was like, okay, forget it. I'll just watch the second day and figure out which one's actually the real line.
See, like, I think when they design these tracks, like the best thing to do it is like, just like they did with the regional qualifier, when they actually release the track, like on Velocity Drone or the drone simulators or whatever tool they want to release these out. I think like some guys feel some type of way about it, but I think it actually makes it a lot more fair. It's like, yeah, some guys have the space and they can just build that track in their backyard and they'll fly it for the next like 2 or 3 months. Like, sure. But at the same time, that's all that goes into the practice. Like, how much time and energy do you want to put into flying and like getting good on that track? Because it allows everyone to perform their 100% on it. So you get like, you're coming out there and you're flying something that's already kind of familiar. You get like good flights. You're not seeing all the crash outs. You get everybody that actually like knows the track. And so I thought like with the regional qualifier track, how you already had that out in the simulators and people knew what that was like beforehand. I thought that was like a really cool thing, because it really allowed you kind of to perform to the best of your ability, because you kind of got to, you knew what you were doing. And I mean, most racing, you have like a day's worth of like flying, and you get to drive, and you get to see the track. You kind of know what's like coming up for the majority of it. So you kind of have a bit of an understanding of what you're doing, as opposed to just throwing out there and just having to just go.
It's very true. A lot of racing, I mean, the track's already predefined for you. We're one of the very rare sports where on a drop of a dime, we can come up with something completely and sometimes horrifically different, and it can be bad. Now, there's one thing I want to ask you. I noticed in the regional finals, I mean, that was a battery buster. I watched a lot of the FPV views, and I've also was there with goggles, and like I saw battery packs come down with like 9 volts after a pack, and I'm like, okay, that battery's dead. How was it like for this one?
So people were not blowing up batteries in this one. This one was not a battery burner. Although some guys, a lot of the guys, like they actually start overcharging the batteries, and that was one of the tips that I took from one of the more advanced, one of the more seasoned veteran guys. So basically ended up charging my batteries up to like 17.4 volts from the standard, like 16.8, 16.4. Not good for the battery life.
Everybody don't listen to this part right here. This right here. This is a bad tip right here. We don't want to be responsible for nobody's house burning down. Okay? I'm telling you right now, that one right there. That's a hush hush, man. You're not supposed to give out that secret right there, homie. What's the matter with you?
So you put out the disclaimer: trained professionals do not try
Trained
this out.
Professional.
Hey, I will say this: it's very commonplace in racing. You get your edge wherever you can, but big disclaimer: definitely listen to Elvin. If you do this, you never let your eyes off the pack,
off the batteries,
because
you're. I always put that out there. The battery
don't
can't
go to
explode.
the bathroom. You're not in the kitchen getting a damn sandwich. Because you walk back in the room and all your shit is on fire and ain't nothing you can do but leave. Yeah. Because after 10 seconds, you can't stop the fire. I can tell you that right now.
And by the way,
incredibly dangerous, yes.
And everybody does it, and in racing anyways. But one thing, that's the reason why you shell out for more high-quality packs, and why some people wrap their packs, because they can contain it a little bit better so that they can get away from the rest of their stuff. But I will say this, what he just says, that's the dirty secret of a lot of racers. Those little extra volts, they count. They do. They count. Especially,
they do. That's an extra 200 watts right there, baby. So,
hey, those motors.
That's like a quarter track, man.
Hey, as long as you can handle the power, because that's another issue in itself. But we're gonna move away from that, because that is a dangerous subject. Please don't do it on your regular packs, because that's not a good idea. Talk to me about turtle mode.
Make packs for that. So
you just buy HV packs.
There was big debates about turtle mode, especially towards the end there, because the final format was like this kind of double elimination. Like the number 1, number 2 went on ahead. 3 and 4 kind of got dropped down the losers bracket. If you lose in the losers bracket, then you're kind of out. And so you had these really competitive head-to-head battles going on, where it's like you didn't know who it all was going to win. And then you would see it was like simultaneously, both these guys are pushing themselves like so hard, and they would literally crash within the same second, they'd both crash out. And then in some of the events where there was no turtle mode, Mr. I'm way back in 4th place now takes 1st place and takes the victory. And then every once in a while you get the guy with the turtle mode flop on over, take off, and you just hear the whole crowd yeah, back up, back in the race, back flying. And so a lot of guys are some guys loved it, some guys hated it. You heard if you can do it, if it's there for everybody, if it's like a feature that everyone can utilize and take advantage of, then why not use it? And you had other guys where it's like no other sport, if you crash out, they allow you to kind of get back into the race and this and this and that. And so there's kind of a debate about it. I personally feel very strongly for it, and I think it's an awesome feature to have, because FPV racing has some of the most luck from time to time, just from random things happening. It's just one additional thing that you can add to kind of keep people racing. I don't think fans want to come and see just quads flipped upside down and crashed out. I mean, maybe they do, but they might like a little bit of the crashing from now and now, but I'm sure they want to see some good racing and stuff like that too. So the turtle mode definitely helps with kind of keeping the races going and keeping it like that. I had one event where I was actually doing a head-to-head for 1st place against another guy. He ended up crashing out, and so everyone said he crashed out. I got ready to turn around and go to land. I didn't know he had the turtle mode. He flipped it on and started going again. I was like, "Oh crap, man! If I would have landed and flipped over, it would have been an instant, change of pace right there." So luckily, that's kind of my strategy. Is I always finish out, always finish out the race. And so that didn't happen, but I think it's a really good feature. I put it on about a week before this event, because I saw the uses and the pros of having that thing available, and I used it once or twice during my little practice laps, because it was a really difficult track, and like I said, you only got 4 packs. So on one of those packs where someone hit me and knocked me out, I was able to flip myself back over and at least continue to kind of explore around and see the rest of the track. You got some bent props and you're damaged out. And for the people that think it's a really horrible thing to have, I tell you this: if you're using turtle mode all the time, you're not going to be winning the race. So it's not like one of those things where you somehow have some kind of ace, up your sleeve, and you're faster than the other guy because you have it. It's if you're having to use that all the time, you're not winning.
Elvin, what are your thoughts on it before I give my opinion?
Okay. If you flip over, I think just because you flipped over or you landed or you stopped forward motion, you should be penalized. This shit does. That's my opinion on that. I think when you hit the ground, either you're out of the race or you penalized. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to stop. You're not. It's supposed to be forward movement, constantly moving through the course.
It takes about 10 seconds to disarm, activate turtle mode, rearm, and flip the boat.
I hear you, but it could be like a fair exchange. You know what I mean? But I still think that you should be penalized. Eventually this turtle mode is going to turn into something that you flip a switch, and you're in the air and gone, right? That's where it's going to go. Eventually, it's going to be turtle mode for the pro. Like you flip the thing, it's going to right side the ship, and then you got like 2 seconds to take off and fly, or it'll drive it into the ground or something. You know what I mean? So eventually, that's going to happen. We might as well start planning for it.
I'm pro spectator, so anything that keeps people flying, it keeps people entertained, I'm for. I'm for no penalties. If you can do it, you can do it. If you can race, you start racing. That's just me because I'm always pro. I'm always pro audience. Okay, if you say, is this good for the sport? It says, will the audience like it? And if the answer is yes, then I'm gonna say yes. That's how I go.
All right. Well, I like the fact that if you spend too much time driving on the side of the road and racing, if your tire is more than off the side of the road for more than 2 seconds, you get penalized. You know what I mean? So
no, I can see yours. I can totally see yours, and I agree with you.
I could see taking a second off of taking a second off.
I'm not saying it's got to be 30 seconds or some shit like that. I'm just saying.
Hey, that's hard though, because now you're gonna have to watch DVR footage, figure out did he use turtle mode or did he right himself? Because eventually, I guarantee you, Elvin's right. Eventually, it's gonna get so good. The second the quad strikes the ground, it'll automatically trigger, bounce itself back up into the air, and you're off on your way again. Right. Somebody will figure that out. It might cost like $300, for that flight board and gyro, but somebody's gonna do it, and some sponsored pilot's gonna be like, "That's worth $300 because I'm racing for $25,000," something like that.
Yeah, that's
just make up numbers.
That's good.
It'll be interesting to see. Good debate on the turtle mode. I'm pro Ira on this one. I'm pro Mac. Okay. You're kicked out, Elvin. We're kicking your ass out. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so you got eliminated just before they got into the final 14. Bad luck, mid-airs.
Yeah, I was in the Series 60, so the Fast 56 is where it was at. That's where people started. So by the end of the day, people started getting really close to those getting close to those 5 laps and stuff like that one. So the elimination from the Series 60 on that one.
Yeah, definitely difficult. What do you think of the racing? When it started getting down to the end, 14s, and getting all the way down to the the finals.
It was crazy watching some of these guys, man. I mean, like some of these kids and stuff out there is just like, there's just no fear, man. These guys were just so locked in and just flying almost blindly. And like I said, they were going so quick and like such speeds that you just had to be on that line where it's like, you don't see the gate as you're going through it. Like you're already passing through the gate as it's coming into your field of vision and stuff like that. It's like you're not even thinking about the gates, and like you really have to kind of get on that level if you're going to be expecting to win these events and stuff like that. For now on and in the future, because people are really stepping up the game and just seeing how fast people were ripping on this course, this really kind of small, tight technical course, and the speeds that they were going and how smooth that they were flying. It's just I think they said that last year. They were just the guys who made it at the Nationals this year, congratulations, but next year it's going to be a lot harder to get here.
Right. Yeah.
Dude.
And that's exactly what we're seeing. It's getting so much harder, and you're seeing more and more of these guys do more and more of these astonishing flying, so smooth, so clean, so fast. It's just man, one of the guys in my club here is man, you're gonna go out there, you're gonna be flying with the monsters. You're gonna see what I feel like comparison to you, and it's gonna be discouraging. And I was I wasn't discouraged. I'm now I see it. I know what I need to do now. So I was
I'll be back.
I can't beat you by 2 seconds. I got to beat you by 15 seconds.
Right.
Rombot's motivated. He's ready. He's like Rocky, you know. He's going back into the ring and he's gonna start swinging. He's gonna be like, I'm gonna train with that big pile of meat and I'm gonna be better than you.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
The other thing,
big gloves on.
No, it's
the
like
other thing that's kind of like the whole hype train and all that stuff. None of these guys are like on the hype train. A lot of the best pilots and stuff that I've seen out there, the fastest guys, I'm like, oh, what are you running? What are you doing? What version of Betaflight? They're using Betaflight from over a year ago. I'm used to this. It flies good. Like, why change anything? So like, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's like, so a lot of the fastest guys out there and stuff like that. And like, the year before, Night Fury with a Naze 32 and all that stuff. It's just like, if it's working and I'm flying good, don't change it. So like this whole hype chain, change this stuff. Every time you make a change, every time you make these like drastic changes to your rig, it's something new to get used to and like figure out. And it affects you like when you need to go as fast as you possibly can, as smooth as you possibly can. And you've been flying for 6 months this way, and now for like the last 2 months, there's these little micro adjustments that you have to you're not there, you're not locked in, and it does mess you up. And so that's one thing that I
realize you lost 15% of your efficiency.
Yeah. I'm leaving my stuff alone, man. I'm just gonna leave everything alone, and just like what I started off in the beginning of the season, what I fly for the whole season. Wait for the next season before I change out anything.
Yeah, hold on. Why? Yeah, like I started running just 1,500 packs. There's no sense. It doesn't make any sense for me to run a 1,300 pack on a 210 or 220. I need that power. I'm not abusing the battery. I'm actually hitting the battery softer now that I got a larger battery and more room to pull the power from. So I'm not actually, when I come down, I'm in my 50th flight on one of these packs, these Florian packs that I've been testing out, and it's not sagging like when I was running the 1,300. I mean, by this time, I'd be looking at that 1,300 like, I need to order some more. You know what I mean? And right now I'm looking at them like, whoa, I can start building up on the big packs now. You know what I mean? I got something to sustain me.
There you go. That's right. And, definitely some great advice for you up and coming racers. It's like the off season, which starts now, I guess,
right,
is the time when you start tinkering and you start building your car your quad for next season, right? You build it to where you like it. You find a nice little buttery smooth medium in which you can fly the fastest, not how fast your rig is, how fast you can fly the rig. Right. And then you keep it the same, and then you just go through it. And besides, you're going to save money that way, because if you're not constantly buying new stuff, that's like hundreds of dollars throughout a season. So it's not worth it.
That's also a headache and a half.
And so many people throwing the newest motors. Oh, these ones. That's like, okay, if you have motors where you can hit 200 miles per hour, it's like if you can only successfully fly at 60 miles per hour, then what good? Then what good are those motors really doing for you?
Exactly.
Like you can't fly at 200.
Exactly.
Can't make the line.
Yeah, like I'd like to see somebody break 80 miles an hour in that MultiGP thing.
I think they were clocking people around 90, at least in that like takeoff and stuff like that. Man, there were some really fast guys. I forget what's his name, but he had that tilt. He was literally almost at like a 90-degree tilt on the blocks, like taking off from there. Man, he had that thing down so freaking perfect, that whole shot. I forget the pilot's name. I'd have to go back to some of my video footage. But man, those are those little knick-knack things that are not even knick-knack, I should say, but those are just like those other little elements outside of just like the standard racing that really make the difference from getting those extra, like shaving off those extra 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds that you need to get that extra lap and stuff like that.
So I got another question for you too, homie. What about the start blocks? Was a start block, can you still did y'all use start blocks, to give you?
Yeah, so they actually have these metal stands. They're probably about waist high. For me, I'm 6'6", so waist high. It's pretty high up there. And it was basically like two arms. And so your battery and everything just kind of sat down and sunk down in the middle. And so it kind of kept everyone at a very flat surface. They had one other item that you could basically put on the actual pad to kind of move, to kind of help prevent your quad from sliding forward. So guys would kind of down and put it in front of their quads or behind wherever you want to position it. So that way you could kind of tilt, but without actually sliding off the block. And like I said, there was guys out there at like 90-degree tilt. So, people were figuring out ways to get their tilt on there, even with the blocks and stuff. It wasn't preventing them. And so I didn't hear any complaints or anything about the blocking.
So, I've been a fan of that from the beginning. I remember I said, man, we need this, and everybody's like, oh no, I learned how to fly, take off without it. I'm like, but for the sport to move ahead, that whole shot, we need to minimize the crashes in the first lap. You know what I mean? That's, the less opportunity these guys have to stuff it in before the first gate, the better the race is going to get, So I've strongly been a proponent for those being out there, and I've never not allowed them at any race that we do.
I saw those racing starting blocks, and they definitely look pretty cool. I thought they were a little bit high, but you can tell me whether or not. But definitely the preloading it's starting to get to a science. It's almost to the point where people know exactly what to do, and it's going to get to the point where the first straightaway is going to have to be very stringently looked at for how long it is, because there's definitely some gain to having like extremely high C, high voltage batteries, and certain powertrains where that first initial burst is going to give you such a lead. I think MultiGP is really gonna have to look closely at that, because
you mean they're gonna start looking at it stuff like when I used to put alcohol in my dirt bike?
Exactly. I know exactly what you're saying, because people are gonna tinker with that, higher cap, on their quad so that they can have more burst. Stuff like that's gonna happen. So, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah, people have definitely started perfecting the science of that launch and that takeoff, man, because it definitely set the pace. Because like I said, you can get off, and just from that launch alone, like I said, the guy who generally took the whole shot, he stayed in first until he either maybe made a mistake and fell off the line or crashed or nicked something, because it was really hard to pass in that track. So perfecting that whole shot, that's something I'll probably be working on in the next season, because I don't put enough focus on my actual takeoffs and stuff like that. I can usually catch most of the people just in the track, but I find that my first lap is usually a good 3-4 seconds behind, and it's primarily, most of that is probably just because my takeoffs are so slow. I don't really punch as hard as I should for that whole shot, because of, like you said, the risk of crashing. I kind of weigh the risk of crashing, and so I don't really punch that whole shot as much. But then at the same time, it's like, if I could do it fast, now I'm out ahead. I'm shaving off 3 seconds, and there's no risk of crashing because I got ahead of everybody else. But it's that risk reward.
Well, hey, I've been in both positions, where you take off and you think you got the doorway all by yourself, and you get to that left corner, up in the right corner, man. You go to make that left turn, and bing, bing. 2 guys out, so
turtle mode.
And I know you did that too. So
turtle mode, armor. Hey, it's gonna get to the point where races are so close, people are gonna start putting armor on their quads out of DRL, because ESC fires, they're for real, man. I see those I don't know, every 3 races. Something's gonna catch on fire if you strike it with a prop. It's just how it is.
Hey,
That's why I went to the 4-in-1 ESCs, tuck them away in there, man. I've had a lot of guys talk about those ones, man. I have had so much better experiences with the 4-in-1 ESCs tucked inside the body than my ESCs out on the arms getting struck by props or other pilots and other things like that.
See, there's a dude speaking up for 4-in-1s, man. There's a lot of guys out there using them today, and me, I still don't have one that continues to work. You know what I mean?
You blow up shit all the time. That's why. That's you.
What kind of amps are you cranking through it?
I just can't get them to stay running, man. I kept blowing them, so I stopped using them. But what I got right now is really reliable. I run little B30s. I'm still running multi-shot. I'm not running D-shot. It's what's working for me. I can keep up. I'm not the fastest out there.
I had to switch to D-shot because that's the only one that you can do turtle mode with for the beta flight.
Right. I'm kind of a purist some of the times. I feel like I like to come out to the field with the quad with the Nays 32 and win a couple rounds. So
hey, I still have quads with Nays 32s.
What is it? The pace pilot out there.
Yeah, I mean, I like that though. You know, it's like I get out there and I just show, you know, I'm always talking about consistency. You know, and I've talked to you about that too. You know, as you got to be consistent, and if I can stay consistent, then the rest of the guys can be consistent too. So. I mean, it's all about my practice theory. Is I may not be the fastest pilot, but I'm going to be consistent. If I continue to keep going around the track, my times are going to be within a second of each other almost every time.
Cool beans. All right, we're going to start wrapping this up. It's been great talking about racing. It's really cool. Rombot, we really appreciate you coming on. But before we let you go off, why don't you give us an update on what you've been doing? The last time you were on your podcast, you were definitely doing some really cool stuff with STEM with concrete quads. Give us an update on what's going on there.
Yeah, it was really cool. I got to meet some of the guys face to face. I was talking to David out there. He's like basically the multi-GP, like kind of STEM, like VP. He was giving me like the rundown of the program and stuff that they're running over there, the package that they actually sell. They come out, they train schools, teachers at schools and stuff like that for these STEM programs to kind of have after school programs or even in classes, kind of teach kids how to build classes. They've taken it like even steps further to the point where they literally have the whole document, the whole entire curriculum like lined out. They've even taken the soldering out of building these like drones, so you can kind of put these things together. They package it almost as if like, I don't know if you guys played with like Legos back in the day. So when you look at these instructions, it's almost like a kid's like Lego manual. So it's like anyone can kind of do this, both kind of like old and young. And so I was kind of talking to David about that. We were both getting really excited about a lot of things because we have a passion to kind of want to bring drones to kind of people and kind of get kids off the video games and other things and stuff like that. And this is one of the things that for sure does it.
Yep.
And with that being said, I was actually down in Fairfax just earlier today. They have about 3 facilities that are getting underutilization throughout the week. And these are indoor facilities, like climate controlled. And as you know, I fly out here in DC, concrete quads, because we got to go underground to fly. Indoor facility, soccer field where we can fly, and they'll let us bring would be like killer for us out here. So I'm out here talking to the staff and the people in charge of the Fairfax County, and she was all kind of gung ho about it. And so I'll hopefully talk to her tomorrow later on this week and kind of get her in contact with David and maybe some of the other like the STEM programs and even my own like build classes that I do, and we'll get like some kind of league racing or something out of it because things have been growing, things have been happening. Now I just wish that I was more than one person so that I could be everywhere at once because it's getting busy, but in a good way. So, it's a good kind of stress to have right now. So things are going in the positive direction. And like I said, I just want to see like more and more people flying, like more people getting into the sport. Everyone that I see, like I was out there recording people, helping with like the Fat Shark booth and whatnot. And old, young, male, female, didn't matter. Everyone was into it. Everyone was loving it. And that's just like, one of the cool things that made me really just kind of like happy to be a part of the event and just kind of the whole little drone race and just kind of seeing that like look on people's face for the first time when they put those goggles on. I see these guys going 90 miles an hour. It's just a cool thing. Cause the first time I did it, it was the same for me. It was just like, how have I never known about this? And so when I can give that experience to other people and kind of get them into it and get them hyped about it too, it's just really cool.
Definitely. And it's one of those things where I think you're on the right track because, I hate to tell everybody here, but if you're over the age of 21, your time is ticking because those young guns, I've seen them. Holy cow. I mean, I'm sorry.
About milk? What about milk?
Waiting for him. They'll get a girlfriend. They'll get distracted.
Some of them don't do that. I got a few that don't do that. It's going to be pretty sure. I'm going to get you, Mac. I'm going to get you. I'm going to be, hey, Coach Rombot. How's your buddies doing? Because you're going to be the coach there, and you're going to be teaching the next young guns to be the national champion.
Coming in with his cane. Get over there and sit down over there.
Hey, what are you talking about, Coach Mr. Miyagi? You're already there, okay? You're already there. He's just following you.
I can reference.
Yeah. Hey, I'm already there.
Hey, man,
so.
I just want to tell you, Rom, I appreciate the fact that you're out there busting your ass and hustling, not just for yourself, but you're trying to feed the community, and that's very important to this hobby slash sport slash industry. The more that you are out there sacrificing your time and giving it to the community, the more that it's going to pay off later on for all of us. So in cases where I see those that are pushing hard and not got their hand out all the time, I want to give you a
definitely props there.
Really that was the conversation I was having with David, because I was like, I'm not looking for any handouts from anybody. This is like, I work, and this is my own money from my own work going into this and other things. I'm looking for warehouses down over here, and like I don't know if you know DC, like the Anacostia area is kind of like the quote unquote the sketch area. But I'm like, hey man, if we can come down here, I can get a little warehouse. We can fly some drones, rent out some space. I don't care. It's like, we're going to do it. We got about 2,000 plus people, and that's like within DC drone enthusiast meetups and around the local area that all are looking for like a good, like a nice place to like fly at a central location. Like something that'll definitely take off if we could, if we can present it and set it up right. And that's what I'm like always looking around to do. And so when I find other like-minded people or people of the same mindset, it's like, come on, let's get on this. Let's go. Let's get together and do this.
Definitely. And, I hope it gets to the point where, you don't have to chip in your own money, and then, you get reimbursed for all those years of effort, because I think that's what we really need. And I'm on board. It's like, I appreciate the fact, and I love the fact that you're putting in your own money, but, and I'm in the same boat, but eventually I hope, what goes around comes around, as they say. But before we go anywhere else, where can they find you? Where if people in the Maryland area want to get in touch with you, whether to join the STEM program or help you out, where can they get in touch with you?
So you can hit me up with, like I said, concretequads@gmail.com. It's also Concrete Quads on Instagram and Concrete Quads on Facebook as well. I don't know if I got a card on me or something I can pull up. I don't have one sitting on me right here. But just hit me up on one of those. I check it all the time. When you reach out to me, it'll be basically me or one of the other local pilots out here that also does classes and builds. We usually respond back within like the first 24 hours and stuff like that. So that's just Concrete Quads at Gmail, Facebook, or Instagram. Concrete Quads, baby.
All right. Thank you, sir. And, we hope that you keep on trucking and more success for you along the way. Any final thoughts before we start wrapping this up?
Oh, no, man. I just want to say thanks to you guys. This is also part of one of the things that helps the community grow and get out there. I like your guys' podcast and the things that you talk about on there. And it's just like, this is where it all kind of starts off. You got the guys that, for the guys that are out there always kind of, complaining and whining about things that are going to be better. It's like, be, as Oprah, I think that was Oprah saying, be the change that you want to be, man. Go out there.
Be the change you want to be.
Yeah, make it better then, don't just go on, just hop on Facebook and start, complaining about things, go out there and put in the time and energy to make it better. Go help your local track, make their events bigger and better. Go out there and build the tracks, help those guys out, ask them what they need. A lot of these guys go out to these events and stuff, and they have all these tracks getting set up. They show up and they go home, and then, they bitch when it wasn't exactly how they wanted it. But that guy's not getting paid to go out there and set up that track for you guys all to race on, and all the money that he's getting, he's getting $10 per pilot or something for one of these events. He's buying $1,000 race tracker so that you guys got a cool timing system and all this stuff. It's like, help those guys out.
Right. And that guy right there, he know all about how much money you can spend. I can tell you right now, Y is one of those guys, and I know he's not one of those guys that like to, stick his chest out and say, hi, look at me, but I'll pat my homie on the back right now and say a lot of the races that he has put on has come out of his pocket, and we all should be grateful that he feels that he can sacrifice his finances toward our community. I want to say that. Thank you, Y, and continue to keep moving on, man. I know it's pressing, it's hard sometimes. And you eating noodles, not because you want to, but we appreciate
ramen noodles.
We do appreciate it. Yeah.
Hey, everybody eats a little ramen noodles every once in a while. Isn't that right, Rombots?
Yeah, those college days. I did the crock pot. That's how I got by the crock pot. I eat the same thing for like 2 weeks.
There we go. He slow cooks everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to do it.
All right. Now, see, look, I said it was going to be a half an hour show, and we already failed on that. That's always how it is on the FPV podcast. We always have enjoyable things to talk about. Rombots, thank you so much for coming on such short notice and sharing your knowledge and, still having a fun time, even though you got knocked out a little bit early. It's always good to talk to you.
Better luck next time, my bro.
Yeah, I'll come back a little stronger next year. But yeah, it was enjoyable talking to you guys as well, and I appreciate you guys and what you're doing. And thanks again for inviting me to be on your show.
All right.
Always love it. All right, we're cutting out. Here's to another good week, and then looking forward to 2018 of racing, whatever that is. Peace out. All right.